Welcome to the NWO Sports Podcast. Here's your host, Logan Bailey.
Welcome to the NWO Sports Podcast, brought to you by our primary sponsor, BSN Sports. I'm your host, Logan Bailey, and joined today by a three-time state wrestling champ and current Delta High School student athlete, Adam Mattin. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Adam.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, so kind of introduced you before, the different sections. We'll kind of break it down, but we're going to start things off with your background and early career in wrestling. So let's just start with the very beginning. When did you first get into wrestling, and what inspired you to pursue it?
Yeah, I think having three older brothers that were there, kind of looked up to them. My oldest brother's 8 years older than me, and then it goes 6 and then 4 years. So I kind of just watched them wrestle, and I just wanted to do it. And then my dad obviously had a big influence on that, of just getting me into it, getting it started, and just making sure I was having a good time doing it.
Yeah, definitely. And that was my second point I was going to go into, is that you come from a wrestling family, with such a rich tradition. What was it like growing up with your brothers? Was there a lot of wrestling matches in the basement growing up?
Yeah, I think so. We actually have a barn outside our house that has a mat and a half in there. And so, a lot of practices with them, get my butt beat quite a bit. I would say that was the main point. I don't think I scored very many points, but there were some tough ones. But it was good. It helped me get better.
Yeah, and I'm sure that, them beating you up a little bit in roughhousing probably turned you into the wrestler you are today. I mean, it's always good to have, that influence from your older brothers, and, especially if you're outmatched a little bit, being a little bit younger, a little bit smaller at the time.
Yeah, I think that definitely helped. Definitely a big influence. So, yeah.
Just moving on to the next point. Delta has such a strong wrestling program. What's it been like representing the Panthers and contributing to that legacy?
Yeah, I think it's super helpful to have a tradition of being successful. It's really hard to just be the first guy. And so I think having, all my brothers, all their teammates before me, just countless state champs, I think it showed to me that it was possible, and kind of gave me the blueprint of what I need to do to accomplish that. And so it kind of already had a path set for me, and I need to keep my head down and follow that path. And I knew I'd be in a good spot just by being a part of the program.
Yeah, definitely. And, all that led to, if anyone's listening, and a wrestling fan, they know that you've won your third career title, which is impressive. And, it's just a testament to you and your hard work and your efforts you've had over all these years. But walk us through the final match. What was your mindset going in, and how did you execute the game plan?
Yeah, I think the game plan, obviously it's changed over the career, but especially the past 2 years, is just go out there and score points. So, really, no matter the circumstances, the external stuff, I just want to go out there. I want to score points and have some fun doing it. So game plan wise, it doesn't really change match to match, but I think a big focus during that last match was just cherishing the moment. Like, this is the last time I'm going to get to do this, and having my brother and my dad in my corner, that's not something everyone has. So I think just being grateful. I'm blessed with three older brothers that are there for me, and they all came back from school to support me, and my dad being in my corner, it's just awesome to experience. And so I think just cherishing that and was a big focus for me.
Yeah, definitely. And, that was just awesome. I was sitting Matt's side taking some pictures and videos and watching your match, and it's so awesome to see, your dad there, your brother there. And, then I think I heard your dad say, go up and find your mom up in the stands too. So I'm sure she's just as big of a supporter as everyone else too.
Yeah, she's definitely, keeps me together during season. And, without her, it doesn't go around. So we always appreciate her.
How did this third championship feel compared to the first two? Was there any extra pressure to win this one?
I think I feel like there was more pressure put on me by others, but for myself, it was just I enjoy doing this, so having that opportunity it was awesome. Yeah, kind of. I was talking about this with my brothers the other day, and we were comparing like how the first one felt compared to the second, third, and I think the first one's always the sweetest, probably. I watched my brothers win state titles, and I was like, I want to know how that feels. So the first one was definitely more on, this is just raw emotion of I've never experienced this, so this is awesome. Second one was I put a lot of pressure on myself going into the tournament of, I didn't want to just win. I wanted to, I didn't want a close match. And I think that kind of affected how I wrestled. and I didn't really get to enjoy, winning that title. And so going into this year, it was like I just want to enjoy it, and I think I did that, and it was a lot of fun, being with my teammates. Our senior class at Delta's, we got 8 guys that are, we had state placers, state runner up, top 4 guys are around me the whole time, and they've been around me for 13 years. So being able to compete with them one last time was a great feeling.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome. Like you said, you're able to kind of, take a deep breath and enjoy things. This being your senior year, going for your 3rd title. I can kind of attest to, playing sports and playing in college football, a little bit different than wrestling, but I mean, there could be a lot of pressure, going into big time games and big time matches. And, sometimes that can affect people, but, if you can take a step back like you did and really enjoy things, it just makes that season much more memorable. So that's awesome. You're able to really enjoy things this year.
Yes, definitely.
Did you have any adjustments or improvements that you had to make this season that kind of helped you get to the top, or just kind of stuck with the same thing that you've done year in and year out?
I think a lot of the same stuff of, just working hard. Kind of, I feel like my confidence doesn't come from, wins or anything like that. It comes from knowing and I've put in enough work that I deserve this opportunity. And so just trusting in my work ethic. I've had the same drill partner the last 4 years of high school. So that's pretty cool of, we know each other pretty well, and we're able to figure out, if I'm struggling in an area, he can pretty much point it out to me before I even notice it myself. So that's really cool. Yeah, so mid-season, I actually I sprained my ankle, and so I was out for almost a month. And so coming back, wearing an ankle brace, taping my ankle every day, just having to do a lot of conditioning where I'm not on my feet, just bike workouts, stuff like that. I'd say that was the biggest adjustment. Just not getting as much mat time as I usually can get, but I think the support of my family, support of my team. I felt great because of that, and I was able to, get back out there and go to work, so it was good.
Who's your drill partner?
Rich Flores.
Okay.
He's our 32-pounder. He took 4th this year, so
Okay.
he's been right by my side all 4 years. I don't think I could have done it without him. So he always says, definitely my freshman year, he said he's the reason I made the state finals, but we'll see.
Yeah, good
So
deal.
that's up for debate.
Yeah.
Up for debate.
And one thing too, I really appreciate watching your wrestling, and I was able to follow you a little bit more, when postseason hits and the tournament run, and I just really appreciate, the fact that when you wrestle, I mean, you're just kind of a head down mentality. You go hard at work, and you don't really showboat or anything. I saw you get a little bit worked up in that championship match. I think you might have, or one of your matches, shoved you a little bit, and you kind of just got back in there and kind of went back at it. But I think that was the most emotion that I saw during the match. You're just always calm, cool, and collected. And other than, once you win a state title, I mean, obviously you celebrate, but I just really appreciate that, from a wrestling standpoint. You just go head down and hard at work each and every match.
Yeah, I like to, it's fun for me. So, there's not too much. I try to, I'm just going to do me and not let others affect me. But, yeah, semis, I think I did get a little worked up.
I think it was in the semis. Yeah.
Yeah. I got shoved a little bit. I started laughing at first, but kept going on. And then, I gave it back a little bit, but, I try not to.
All right. We're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back to hear from Adam. BSN Sports is your go-to business for purchasing uniforms, equipment, spiritwear, and anything else your athletic program needs, giving you more time to impact lives on the field. With over 1,200 sales professionals who live, work, and serve in your community, you're always just a short drive or phone call away. Be sure to give your local sales rep and Jim Garris a call for any of your athletic supply needs. Titan GPS delivers technological superiority and improved player performance through wearable GPS made for high school football and strength and conditioning programs. From speed training to athlete recruit to workload enhancement, Titan is the easy-to-use yet comprehensive GPS tool to get it done. There's no minimum to get started, and Titan will walk you through every step to success. Message us on X Titan Sensor to learn more and get in touch.
Mattin Stevens Body Shop is your #1 voted auto body shop in Northwest Ohio. We are your experts on all makes and models and are the only Chrysler, Ford, and GM certified collision repair center in the area. Located in Jewel, Ohio. Give us a call today at 419-497-3111 to schedule your free estimate. Come check out the Mattin Stevens Body Shop difference.
Welcome back to the NWO Sports Podcast. We have Delta's Adam Mattin on the podcast right now, and we're going to continue with some more wrestling talk. So let's talk becoming a 4-time finalist. You know, to be a 4-time finalist, it's an incredible achievement. You know, 3-time state champion. Is there anything that you would say, you know, you can relate to being on that level of high success and consistency year after year? What do you kind of relate to, you know, your success?
I would say, you know, people could say what they want. Freshman year, I think, was a little bit of a fluke. I think I had a really good tournament of, I don't think really many people expected me to be there. But I would say it all comes back to just uh, dedication and hard work in the room. I think we train at Delta probably the hardest out of any team in the state. And I think we truly believe that. And I think that really helps us in that, along with our schedule, helps me in these big tournaments. It helps when the state tournament isn't the hardest one of the year, and I think with our schedule, we went to Pitt and then Maumee Bay, and then we went to a tournament in Wisconsin. So I think those three were harder than our state tournament. So that's really you can't make it the state tournament bigger than what it is. You know, it's just another tournament, and the fact that we're able to have 3 tournaments that are probably tougher, it just helps it, bring it down to earth a little bit, right? It's not insane. It's
Sure.
not a crazy task.
Now, with your career, what were some of your biggest challenges you faced along the way? You know, you talked a little bit about injuries. You know, were there any other setbacks or tough losses that kind of shaped you as a wrestler?
Yeah, I would say one setback would be sophomore year. I tore my meniscus and I got it repaired right at the beginning of the season. And so that's usually a 4-month, 5-month, recovery. And so I knew I wanted to be back for the season. So a lot of physical therapy, just putting in work outside of the mat. And that's where I kind of started my journey of kind of understanding the mental side of the sport of, if you don't have your mental right, it's going to be really hard to win big matches. And that's where I started that. And, I couldn't do anything physical, but I could work on my mind. And I think that's a lot of my success comes from a belief in, not truly judging everything based on outcome of, it's not about the wins or the losses. It's, where can I improve because of this match I just wrestled, and viewing it as an opportunity to grow rather than, a fear of losing can paralyze you. And I think that's an area where I've definitely gotten better at. I would say I'll give you a specific match that I think's probably helped me a lot in last year. So junior year at Pitt, there's a freshman coming in, Gray Burnett, really good. I knew it was going to be a dogfight, and I was up 6-2, and I ended up losing 7-6. So I kind of just shut down in my match, and from that point on, a big focus was finishing matches and scoring points. And I feel like since that, I've grown a lot in that area of just continuing to score points, and extending a lead is huge. And I want to thank him for that, because I think that's going to help me in college if everyone's good enough to score points. And so extending a lead and not making it within striking distance is definitely a big part of that.
Yeah, definitely. And I like what you said, about, kind of being self-critical of yourself. I'm sure it can be easy, when you have a lot of success, to kind of get a big head. But if you can really be self-critical and you learn from each match, and, how can I continue to get better? I mean, that's a great attribute to have as a person, and, even better as an athlete, because, I mean, you're going to continue to grow, and, you're wrestling at the next level, and, it's only going to get tougher at the next level too. So, the fact that you're being a student of the game of wrestling, you just continue to improve. So I think that's a great trait to have. All right, let's move on. Talk a little bit more about your family here. So now with your family, you have a combined total of 9 state championships. Your dad, Mike, started off with 1, Drew with 3, Cole with 1, Zach with 1, and yourself with 3. And that's absolutely incredible. I don't think there's many families in the state that can say that. But what's it like being part of such a dominant wrestling family?
Yeah, I think it's an awesome feeling of, I think, people try to compare. A big talk was I got 3 titles. I was in the finals for, 4 of them, and just trying to compare us of like, who's better. And I think, people, I'm going to let people do that for me. But I think for myself, I know without them, I don't think I have a state title. If they haven't created the path for me, and my brothers come back, every chance they get to wrestle with me. And without them, I think I'm half as good of a wrestler as I am now. And so I credit a lot to, our family's success comes from, everyone involved. It's more than just one person, and I can't do it by myself. So having them help me and creating that legacy even before me that I'm just able to add to, I think really relieves some of the pressure. Whereas a lot of people think it adds to it. I think they just allowed me to kind of evolve, and they helped me do that. So that them helping has been a big part of that.
Yeah, definitely a great support system. You talked about your one brother being a coach and your dad being a coach as well. But your other brothers being up there in the stands. I remember last year when I was at the tournament, your whole family was sitting front row for some of your matches, and I was watching them, and they're screaming and yelling and supporting you, and they're kind of showing you wrestling moves to do, and that's just awesome to have that your whole family just so into it. That's just
there's some
memory.
Passionate guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Some passionate guys. So
hey, wrestling.
It's a cool to see.
Yeah, wrestling's a passionate sport, and your whole family's 110% into it too. So it's awesome.
No doubt.
Who's the most competitive in the Mattin household when it comes to wrestling?
Gosh, I would say that's such a tough question. I would say my brother Zach. So he's closest to me in age. He's a senior at Michigan right now. He's got to be the most competitive guy I've ever met in my life. If from board games to the biggest game in your life, he is gonna take it the same. It's ultra competitive. It's either win or if he doesn't win, it's a problem. So there's countless stories of games turned to fistfights over losing. So I think everyone's obviously very competitive, but I think he's the top guy when it comes to that for sure.
Yeah, I was honestly curious. I didn't know if you would have said yourself or anyone else, but
no.
A lot of testosterone in that family there.
Definitely. It gets intense. It gets intense for sure.
All right, let's move on to let's talk Stanford. You wrestling at the next level in your future. What made Stanford the right choice for you?
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that make it the right choice for me. Distance is not one of them. That was probably the biggest downside of it, is just moving away from my family. But that was probably the only bad thing I could find about it. Academically, they're ranked top 3 in the country and even in the world of universities. So I think being able to get that degree from wrestling, I mean, I don't think I have that opportunity without wrestling. So being able to get a degree from Stanford it's huge, in life wise. Wrestling wise, their coaches are, top notch. The head coach was a head coach at Princeton for 20 years, and brought it from the worst program in the country to the placing top 10 at NCAAs. So
right.
I can only imagine what he's going to be able to do with a lot more, financial support, and support from the school is huge. They're an athletic school. There's a stat, the Director's Cup is what it's called. It's, points from all the sports from the NCAA season. And I think they've won it 25 of the last 26 years.
That's impressive.
So just having a tradition of success, I think similar to Delta, it's hard to do something for the first time. So I think when you see success all around you, it just makes it all the more easy to be able to have that success yourself.
Now, how did your recruiting process go? Were there any other schools seriously in the mix, or, how did they go about reaching out to you, or, just tell me a little bit about that.
So it was a little frustrating at first. I think a lot of the schools would contact me and then kind of assumed I was going to Michigan, which was like the hardest thing of kind of convincing schools I'm not going there.
Right. Probably look at all your other brothers and he's going to go there too.
Yeah. And so that was a hard part of just convincing people to invest their time into me, because they don't want to waste their time recruiting someone who's already set. And so I took a visit to Michigan November of my junior year. I just think that that's probably not the best. It wasn't the best place for me, culture wise, just, um, and so, I knew my brothers wouldn't be there. So that was like that would have been a big part of it if they were there, maybe made the decision harder.
Sure.
So I kind of ruled them out. And then I went on a visit to North Carolina, Michigan State, and just the culture of team culture it was so evident of like Stanford was one of the best in the country at that. On my visit, we went out and we played Mario Kart in a dorm with 35 guys. And I think that speaks to, they care about each other. And I think in a season, wrestling's really tough to do by yourself. So if I know I have 34 other guys on my team that care about me and are willing to help me, I think that's really important. Um, so yeah, I think probably the first day I was on campus, I chose that's where I was going to go. I didn't tell anyone that for a couple months. I took
Right.
a couple other visits, but I think I knew in my heart that it felt like that was the place I was meant to be.
Felt like home.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, what are you looking forward to most at Stanford, both academically and athletically, and what are you going to study?
Yeah, so I'm going to study human biology. So I want to go pre-med, kind of follow in the footsteps of all my brothers went pre-med. One's dentist, and then one's in med school, and then the other just got accepted into Cincinnati for med school.
Okay.
And so kind of following their footsteps of as of now, I got some time to change, but
Sure.
I'm pretty passionate about that. It's always been something I'm interested in. So that's what I plan on studying. I'm really looking forward to just meeting the guys, seeing my brothers be a part of a college team for, 8 years now. It's a really great experience, and they're meeting the guys that, some of their best friends. So I'm excited to meet a lot of new people, different area. I can't lie, I'm really excited to surf. I love surfing,
Really?
so it's a big pull for me. So being able to go to the beach, 15 minutes away, go surf, that's something that's gonna be cool.
Have you done much surfing? When you go on
Yeah, so
vacation or anything like that? Or what?
I've never. So that's like I've heard it's pretty similar or not the same thing, but pretty similar feel of wake surfing,
Yeah.
like behind a boat.
Yep.
And I mean, I spend almost my whole summer out on the water doing that. So I'm excited to see how that's like, and hopefully I can pick it up pretty quick.
There you go.
I guess we'll see.
All
We'll
right.
see.
Good stuff from Adam. We're going to take another break to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back to finish things up. The Drop Zone Pizzeria is the #1 voted pizza restaurant in the region. Check them out for pizza, wings, subs, and more. Located in Ayersville and Stryker, or ask them about their traveling food trailer. Northwest Ohio Basketball hosts premier basketball tournaments for boys in grades 3 to 8 in the area. Upcoming tournaments are right around the corner. Give them a call today at 419-283-5296 or check out their website at nwoball.com. Check out Tenora Rams Live. Live events broadcast on YouTube and post-game results, articles, schedules, and more can all be found on tenorarams.com. Feel free to look up their Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram pages as well. Back on the NWO Sports Podcast, and we're finishing things up here with Delta wrestler Adam Mattin. So, Adam, let's get into training and the mental preparation for the sport of wrestling. We kind of talked off air. There's a huge mental component to the sport of wrestling. What was your training routine like during the season, versus the off season? And just tell me a little bit. I know your dad had posted something on X about, you really focusing on the mental side. And did you have some kind of mentor that kind of guided you through the way as well?
Yeah, the mental side of wrestling, I think, is probably even more important than the physical side, because if you can't perform, what you're doing in practice, you're only as big as that gets. So, I actually started my sophomore year talking to a sports psychologist, about enjoying the sport, and he's helped me so much of just not only within wrestling, you're trying to be the best wrestler you can be, but also trying to be the best person I can be. Whether that's best brother, best friend, best son, just anything you can think of, just being the best at everything. And I think that's been a big focus of that. And I started journaling in the mornings, starting my sophomore year, just pretty much about anything I could think of, just how I'm feeling, what I'm looking to accomplish on the day. And, I think that's done wonders of just helping me stay collected of, my thoughts, what I need to work on, and just being helping me improve in all areas of life. And so yeah, I kind of stuck true to that. I kind of have a weird, or some say weird pre-match routine. You know, a lot of guys get hyped up, you know, listen to rap music, stuff like that. Um, Before matches, you know, I try to keep the same routine. You know, about 15 minutes out, I'll do a meditation. That's just, you know, breathe in for 5, breathe out, stuff like that. I've done the same one for, you know, it's about 5, 6 minutes long, and you know, so then going into the matches, I'm just as calm as can be, pretty much. Of you know, just focused on you know what I'm looking to accomplish going into it. And so I think the more clear my head is, you know, the better I wrestle. You know, I'm instinctual. It's not game planned. When I game plan, I feel like I have a really hard time of of executing what I want to do, and just kind of wrestling how I want to wrestle. So just keeping a clear mind, really enjoying it. You know, why do something if you're not enjoying it? And
Right.
so, I mean, I just didn't. I think I used to struggle to see. Um, I used to judge everything based off, you know, whether I won or lost, and I think that's not really realistic to really pretty much anyone. If I go out there, I give my best, and I still lose, I'm never disappointed in that. And I think I used to be. And so that just I've kind of taught myself that, you know, no matter the outcome, if I go out there, I give my best, you know, I'm going to be proud of myself no matter what. And usually if you go out there and give your best, good things happen. So I feel like that's been a big help of just kind of flipping my mindset from, all right, I have to win versus I just, you know, go out there, be my best, and I'm good to go. I'm good to go. So
Yeah, and I like your point you said about being calm and cool and collected. I kind of referred to that earlier. Just watching you from outside looking in, watching your matches, you're always so calm. And my college coach, and he's the head coach at Findlay now for football, but Coach Corey Allen. I mean, he had so many wise points that he said, but he would always tell us, don't get too high with the high, not too low with the lows. Even keel the whole way. And I think there's a lot of
yeah,
truth to that because, I mean, obviously you want to play with some emotion and stuff, but if you get too far at one way of the spectrum, I mean, it starts throwing off your game too, no matter
for
what
sure.
sport you're playing. So, that's definitely a good attribute to have too, wrestling.
Yeah, and I think you know, a lot of people just don't realize that how much their nerves are into play when they're competing. Of guys coming off the mat saying, "It feels like I couldn't even feel my arms when I was wrestling." I'm like, "You're just nervous,
Yeah.
right? It's nothing other than you're just nervous. You're not tired. You know, guys are exhausted, and it's just, you know, they're so hyped up going into matches. They've used all their energy before they've even stepped on the mat. So, I think just flipping my mindset has made a huge difference of my success. Not only success, but just my joy for it, right? So I think it's definitely made a difference, and I'm going to continue to perfect that, and hopefully continue to get better.
Now, I know you said you don't really listen to too much music, before wrestling, but if you're listening to music, what's your go-to?
Like so, it's kind of like it's weird. It's really upbeat. Some people kind of describe it as club music,
Okay.
of like lots of beats, not very many words, and it's just uh, it just kind of gets me excited. It's not like, you know, I feel like rap is like kind of angry, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I just kind of listen to music that, you know, makes me happy because I'm
Sure.
I'm happy doing what I'm doing. So
Good deal.
it's pretty fun. I usually keep the same songs, so I actually post it on my Instagram. But yeah, that's pretty much the go-to.
All right. Well, we're going to lead into some rapid fire questions. These are going to be fun, a little bit personal too.
All right,
So I'm going to reel them off and you'll answer them for me. Okay. You ready?
all
I
right,
think
sounds good.
there's about 5 of them. So
All
first,
right,
first one is favorite post-match meal. What's your go-to?
favorite post-match meal, pasta. I would say chicken Alfredo.
Solid. Can't go wrong with chicken Alfredo.
No, can't go wrong.
Toughest opponent you faced.
I would go back to Gray Burnett. Just so hard to wrestle. Just never quits. You know, every point is earned, and I think that's I wrestle. I train with him, so it's, you know, it's a great training partner, great guy. So it's cool.
Yeah, solid. And I mean, he's just a sophomore. He's a 2-timer already. So,
Yeah,
another great wrestler in Northwest Ohio.
definitely.
Best advice you've ever received from a coach or teammate.
The best advice I would say it goes back to no longer judging my performance based on like external circumstances, whether someone thought I wrestled my best or if I won the match, if I lost the match, judging it based on, if I felt I gave my best, if I, came in with a good attitude, 100% effort, everything, if I did everything I could to win that match and it still didn't work out, it is what it is. It's just not meant to be.
If you could wrestle any athlete, past or present, who would it be?
Oh my gosh. Maybe Michael Jordan. I'd like to, let's see how it
Man,
goes.
I couldn't imagine Michael Jordan being on the wrestling mat.
He's a big dude, but he doesn't really know what's going on. So I feel like I might have a chance. I think it'd be cool though, just to say it.
There you go. You'll have to have a Netflix special, Adam Mattin versus Michael Jordan. There you go.
He's the first guy I could think of, I guess.
Favorite wrestling memory so far?
I would say junior year, winning a team state dual title. We went in kind of the heavy underdogs, won our first duel handily, won our second duel by like 3 points. Our heavyweight pinned the kid the last match. We ended up winning. And then in the finals, I think on paper we're supposed to lose by like 25 points. And we came together as a team and just, things started going our way. And then came down to the last match. We're tied, and our heavyweight gets another pin, and we win. Everyone came to my house after, the whole team, and we just had pizza and hung out with each other. It was great memories of not just winning, but just being there together. It was awesome.
That's awesome. Last rapid fire question. I know you said surfing, wakeboard, all that you enjoy, but
yeah,
any sport other than wrestling, talking about like high school sport or whatever, what sport would you play or do?
Okay.
Or what would you take? If you couldn't wrestle, what would you do?
Okay, if I couldn't wrestle, I'm also going to say I'm a bigger guy, so I'm going to go football. I think that'd be fun. I don't think I have the best I'm not the most fit for football at the moment, so but other than that, I think I'd be a good wide receiver or linebacker or something like that.
That's what I was going to ask. What position? You're looking at wide receiver.
Yeah,
I could see you as a defensive back. Flip your hips and run.
Yeah, I mean in 7th and 8th grade, but I wasn't very good. But yeah, I think football would be cool. I think it'd be just playing under the lights. Feel like being able to perform under pressure is a big thing in football, and it's not so individual compared to wrestling. So I think that'd be, team aspect, team culture would be cool.
Fair enough. I love it. I love the rapid fire questions because it really gets you thinking too. So those are always fun.
Yeah, no. The athlete to wrestle in the past that one got me. I think Michael Jordan's an interesting answer.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going to stick with it.
I would not have guessed that in a million years. So
I don't know. I like his mindset. It's cool. Just going after it.
All right, we're going to wrap things up. A couple closing questions, and we are all done. So what advice would you give to a young wrestler who wants to reach the level of success that you've had?
Yeah, I think there's two things of, making sure you're the hardest worker. I think I draw a lot of my confidence, it's not like a big ego from like winning matches, winning tournaments. It's more, I know how much work I put in. And so finding that confidence in my work ethic is huge. And I think if you can do that, it's really helpful because even when you lose, you can still have that confidence of, I've been working as hard as I can. That's what I'm going to do. And then my second one would be have fun. I think it goes back to it's not worth doing it if you're not having fun. So making sure no matter what it is, just enjoying the process and not making it life or death. It's just a wrestling match. And I think sometimes people forget that. So just have some fun and just be you.
Yeah, especially in today's day and age. I mean, it's good to be competitive, but sometimes, even starting at a young age, like I feel like there's so much stress on younger kids that they almost lose the love for the sport as they continue to get older. But yeah, like you said, I mean, just have fun and enjoy the actual sport itself, enjoy the suck, all the hard practices and things like
Yeah,
that, because,
yeah.
as you grow up and, one day, you're not going to have the opportunity to wrestle anymore, or, play football or whatever sport you want to do in life. It only lasts a short period in your life. So, might as well enjoy it and make the most of it.
Yeah, it's really hard to be good at something if you don't love it, because it's really hard to do the hard practices that make you better if you're not really bought in. So, yeah, just definitely buying into just enjoying it is a huge part. I think, even I went to a lot of the biddy tournaments this year just to kind of show face and help some of our Delta club guys. And, some of these guys, they go out there, wrestle great, and they lose, and they're crying in the corner. And I think it's just really hard to love a sport that, I mean, you cry when you give your best. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. And so I think, yeah, just having fun, definitely a big part of it.
What's one thing you wish more people understood about the sport of wrestling?
Oh gosh. I mean, the rules in general are really hard for people to catch on. It is a pretty complicated sport. Um, I wish people understood like how much time goes into it, of like, even when the guys that don't have their success, I see my teammates not achieving their success they want. It hurts, right? It's not fun. These are my best friends, and I see them losing, and I think, like, understanding that maybe someone didn't accomplish their goals, but I wish people still, like, kind of not celebrated that they lost, but it wasn't such a disappointment when you don't reach that high level, even though you put in the time to, of like just understanding that, they gave it their all. Like, that's all they got. And I mean, I feel like it's almost like, if you don't win a state title, it's like a failure, it's just not reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are all great points. It's just one of those things too. I told you about wrestling is, I was always a basketball guy growing up, but over the last couple of years, my father-in-law, I give him credit for, having me, develop a love for the sport of wrestling. And, there's a lot of great things that come from the sport. And, definitely like you had said with, understanding the scoring and the points and things like that. And, that can be a little bit difficult at times, especially, this last year, they changed scoring up a little bit, but I don't know. I think things turned out for the better. I mean, I'll be honest. I was going to ask what you thought about it too, but a little bit different.
Yeah, definitely
different vibe hearing people yell out 3 instead of 2 at the state tournament.
I know. I catch myself all the time saying 2, but I do really like the scoring changes. I like putting points on the board, and I think up in the takedown, up in the back, definitely helped.
All right. Well, that's all I really got for you. It's been a pleasure following you over the last couple of years. You've had one heck of a career. I think you set a great example for, the Delta community and, other, younger, wrestlers and, fellow wrestlers in Northwest Ohio that kind of looked up to you. So, do you have any final words or thoughts?
I would just, I want to thank my teammates and my coaches. I think a lot of, sometimes success kind of shadows that of, my individual success shadows some of my teammates' success. And I wish that didn't happen, but that's just kind of how it is. And so kind of big shout out to those guys. I see how hard they work in the room, and I appreciate them just being with me every step of the way. We had 6 state placers this year. And so I think that's really cool, and just kind of speaks to how much we care about each other and how much work we put in together. So big shout out to those guys. And my coaches, came in as a freshman with our head coach now, Mark Nagel. And I think, he's done a great job of developing us and creating a team culture that, we're willing to fight for each other. And I think that sometimes gets overlooked. And so, I just appreciate those guys.
All right. Well, you heard it here first from Adam Mattin. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Stay tuned for the next NWO Sports podcast in the near future.